De colores se visten los campos en la primavera.
They emerged from poverty-stricken labor camps throughout California's Central Valley, sons and daughters of migrant farm worker families. They became Chicano poets, painters, and muralists, political activists devoted to social justice, a self-described rebel band, infusing their artistic efforts with humor and satire. Their role in the farm worker union movement brought an entirely new and enduring perspective to both art and politics. This is the story of Sacramento's own Royal Chicano Air Force and its legacy of art and activism. Rebel Chicano Art Front arose in the 60s when a group of students led by Jose Montoya and Esteban Villa, professors of Chicano studies at CSU Sacramento, formed a cultural affairs committee to organize cultural activities and art classes on campus, as well as outreach classes in the barrio.
When I got a job at Sac State, me and Jose, well, it was only two of us. It only takes two people to change the world. Sometimes just one person to change. And so we knew that, and we started to do painting in the community.
Which made the art department glad to see us out of their hair. We're not on campus, but on campus is where we got the students to go into these programs.
Meeting Jose and Esteban was like, are these guys really teachers? I mean, how did they get into the university? First of all, it was like going into a party atmosphere. And we started to run together, and I found out that, man, we were all basically learning art together.
Jose and Esteban were my professors, and they were also my mentors. And they supported our struggle there at Sac State to be whoever we were. We didn't think of ourselves as an art movement, but people sure brought it up. People sure let us know that we were somebody more than just a bunch of crazy artists.
We originally started out as the Rebel Chicano Art Front.
And we began to sign all of our artwork with the initials of the Rebel Chicano Art Front, RCAF.
But they kept on getting confused with the Royal Canadian Air Force.
And we just got tired of explaining, we just at some point said it's really the Royal Chicano Air Force.
And then I don't know, somebody says, yeah, we fly Adobe airplanes, man. We make them out of earth.
When I hear you talk about Adobe airplanes, I never know what's myth and what's fact.
Okay, so our planes made out of Adobe tile, and ordinarily you think of big bulky Adobes, that they build houses with.
Our sense of humor, which we call our locura, our insanity, was precisely what allowed us to move on and to accomplish the things that we accomplished. Uniforms, flying helmets, bandoliers, leather jackets, jeeps, the regalia that was provided for us became a natural thing for us to use in our locura.
Locura cura, that's said a lot. That's almost like a mantra among the group. The craziness cures is sometimes that in a world that's out of balance, if you put a beauty and harmony, it doesn't cure as much as more craziness. And so that's a part of the Sacred Fools. The one who pushes the dimension, pushes the envelope of creativity is not only serious, but is profoundly humorous and plays with the irony of life, plays with the hurts, the tragedies, the tears of life, turns tears into laughter. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths of the RCAF, that would echo to society, you know, to look at itself, to laugh at itself, because through laughter there was healing.
The word Chicano had emerged as RCAF's self-identity, and the group of academics and artists made it their mission to promote Chicano culture and influence people's ideas of what it meant to be Chicano.
The fact that we have proclaimed ourselves Chicanos is a political act. It was like what happened after World War II when we were allowed to be Mexican-Americans. We knew the history of the Americans. The Americans never allowed us to be Americans. They would always remind us that we weren't Americans. But now, because too many heroes were coming back from the wars, let's put a hyphen and make them Mexican-Americans. Those of us who rejected it were accused of being anti-American, of being un-American. And we knew the record. They've never kept a treaty promise. They sent 400,000 of my people back to Mexico, whether they were Mexicans or not. We knew of the oppression that the Americans imposed on us, and now they said, okay, well, you can be an American. You, I'm going to be a Chicano.
You're going to get what we consider to be a new American, an American in brown. And here's what we're about. Here's our art, here's our literature, here's our politics. What do you think? Is it okay? If it's not okay, what's not okay about it? We redefined what assimilation meant, that assimilation really wasn't what we were about. Participation was what we were about.
By the mid-1960s, the United Farm Workers of America, led by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, had grown to become one of the largest farm workers' unions. The UFW sought legislative and regulatory reforms to help farm workers achieve better pay and working conditions. It was a cause familiar to the members of the RCAF.
We were farm workers. Our parents were farm workers, and we knew what the conditions were. So when the United Farm Workers movement was alive, we jumped in because that was our life experience. I had worked in the fields, helping my mother and my father, Jesus and Carmen Orozco. You know, they worked hard in the fields all their lives, and they raised 9 kids, and on $100 a month.
It was the local growers' sons that flew the crop dusters. We would be picking cotton. They dared each other on who would fly down the lowest. And of course, you would feel it was like dew falling on your skin. You would feel all the pesticide. At that time, it was DDT.
In the summer, in the heat, 110 degrees out there, and you're working from 4 in the morning to way past 6 in the afternoon, you know, and you worked your ass off, and you had to run literally. And I remember all of us that were working the fields, you carried your 16-foot ladder that weighed maybe 30, 40 pounds on top of your 75-pound bags of pears, and you're running from tree to tree, and as you're getting close to the tree, you throw your ladder into the tree, and by the time it hits the tree, you're halfway up picking, because time is money.
I remember the Bracero program, going out there trying to find my uncle. You know, he was on a visa from Mexico to work out here in the Woodland area, and they used to have like chicken coops with all these men stacked in there like cattle, and this was their living quarters.
Just me and my baby sleep together, and I get up real early to prepare the breakfast, and I start covering my baby to leave it go to sleep. And when I take the blanket, the little light blanket from the face, I see the baby's dead. And the other, one of my little boys dead too. Babies small. I got 2 babies small, they die. One is when I picking grapes, and the other one is when I picking cottons. Louis, the little one. Yeah.
What your view is of the strike or boycott in the grape industry?
Oh, the grape boycott. Well, I've classified that in the past, in a number of public occasions, as immoral, and I think it is. And I don't think that the same rules of industrial unionizing could apply in the farm, because that would not be legitimate collective bargaining. That would simply be blackmail. If you simply...
My father died not knowing what it meant to earn over $1.25 an hour. No pension, no medical benefits, no housing benefits, no unemployment insurance, none of that. So for a lot of us, working in the UFW was a way of getting even.
You know, we saw something that was happening. We could sense and feel the bigness of what the whole movement was all about. And we could internalize that and create the icons, the images, the murals, the posters, the individual artworks that reflected that.
The idea of using art as resistance or using art to organize, that was still very much something that we could do as an Air Force.
We're not protesting, we're just taking it back.
Just taking it back. And how do you propose to take it back?
Well, just transform it, make it livable, make it humanizing.
People raise a little bit of hell.
Can we help you solve the problem, Mike? You sign a contract and we solve the problem.
All those that are sacrificing themselves so that farm workers may live and work in justice and dignity.
Across the Californian border from the richest of rich America stand the slums of Mexicali. From these cardboard houses in the dust, many of the farm workers of California are recruited.
There was a real foundation and a longing to bring all of this Chicano awareness into some kind of context. There was the movement, but the movement, the farm worker movement had grown. People were struggling with, what do we do with all of this? The small part I feel I played was to say, we have an ancient culture, we have an ancient stream. Let's begin to put this all together. Words, poems, lines, activism, it all sort of goes together. And the model that we can use is the indigenous native model, who we are. We are a native people. We didn't come from somewhere else.
Descendant soy de los de abajo. Arrastrando me voy por la vida, y arrastrado fue mi padre like his own before. Except that mine compounded the grief by abandoning his land for another so foreign and at once so aching as to be painful. Y como él, I have dragged myself and soul in some unconscious, instinctive search for the splendor de los templos del sol. Y por donde me habría arrastrado, does it matter? Soy de los de abajo, find the gutters, the prisons, the battlefields, y los files de algodón, ahí me encontrará.
Most of the people in the RCF, they come from agricultural families, so there's a tie there. They knew what Cesar Chavez was doing. I think they saw that brotherhood. It was a duty to help Cesar Chavez.
Just as Cesar Chavez had envisioned, United Farm Workers was becoming both a union and a civil rights movement, gaining strong support from members and supporters alike.
Let this rally be the beginning of a boycott against those boers who want to destroy the union, perpetuate starvation wages, and those employers who want to maintain the slave working conditions of the workers that they've done so for so long.
Cesar recognized early on the importance of the artist community and how to best utilize them for the United Farm Workers movement. We don't need to go back into the fields and help pick. But, now we've moved beyond that. We're artists, and we can say things that relate on large scales and address specific issues with our talents.
You could do it in a way that was honorable, that was in keeping with America, the American tradition of protest, and at the same time being tuned in with the rest of the country, with Martin Luther King, the Civil Rights Movement. But this time, it was focused on us. It had to be satirical, it had to be real, it had to be spoof, and it had to be dramatic, it had to be outrageous, and at the same time, try to accomplish fairly establishment kinds of results, like making sure that United Farm Workers succeeded in the great boycott, which the RCAF ran.
They became, in some sense, the graphic arts arm of the union in the Sacramento Valley. They would do the arts, they would do the posters.
52 weeks out of the year, 7 days out of the week, over the span of 10 years, nonstop. We would get the call, we need, X number of 500, 1,000 posters by tomorrow morning with the union logo on it and these words on it.
And so it was up to us to get them done, whatever it took. And staying up all night, that's what we did.
In a 8x8 room with all these lacquer films overcoming us, drinking a few beers and just cranking out work and, starting out around 7 with no food in our system, working up to the wee hours of the morning, 4 o'clock to run a poster that was very much needed the next morning.
Via would say, stay up with me. Stay up with me. And we're going like, okay. And Via just went this fast, hand pulled, not machine, hand pulled screens. And the squeeger would have to squeegee the ink, pull up the print, and that fast somebody would have to pull it off. The other guy would have to put it down. And just as fast as you can do this, that's how fast we were going. And we would do this all night long.
A poster is important because it's like the ancient Chinese saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I think that's what we see throughout all the posters. There's an attitude that comes out stronger. It's not just what's said on the poster. Those are just particulars.
The poster, and I did this poster. It was a poster in when we went to Woodland to boycott Safeway.
And the RCAF was on a Jeep. Jose Montoya, Esteban Villa, and a couple other pilots. And some young kids goes, Mom, those are the Chicano pilots. Where are their planes? No, they're in a Jeep now. They loved it. People actually thought these guys were pilots. They wanted to know where were their planes, where were they, and who was their commander. That's the fun, Invent something like Don Quixote did. Have fun, and at the same time help somebody. That's how I see it. They're just having fun and at the same time helping people.
What the RCF did was they got art and they took it out of the galleries and put it into the barrios, and we'll always be thankful for that.
Juan Carrillo, deputy director at the California Arts Council from 1978 to 2005, considers RCAF posters as significant contributions to the visual arts world.
And so the RCAF posters became posters to publicize health issues, fundraising, dances, education issues, marches. It was a way for the posters to inform the public. It was a way for new symbols to be presented to the public. Everyone that I've met in the Chicano art world has acknowledged that the RCAF posters were a significant contribution of this century to art history. We didn't get caught up in the internal political affairs of the union. We were kind of independent in a way, which meant that Caesar would give us impossible tasks.
No request was ever too big or too small. If we needed food for people that were marching, if we were going to do a demonstration and they had to have the signs, if we were having a convention and we needed their help.
It could have been 2 o'clock in the morning or midnight, whatever, and I would receive a call.
When he would say, we have a major lobbying effort going on at the Capitol. I'm bringing 2,000 farm workers to Sacramento. I want you guys to house them and feed them for 3 or 4 days. And we would always fulfill them.
It's true, my father and guys like Jose Montoya and Esteban Villa, they're from a different time, right? And so they lived a lot of the same experiences and the interests were the same. So yeah, he felt completely at home. they were basically his homeboys.
And so the Royal Chicano Air Force began to involve itself in community affairs and community activities, and to help bring a vision about it that I think was absent. And that was a vision of a world where we were educated, where we participated politically, where we were active agents in life.
Where did he get the idea that they're going to paint the freeway?
Did you tell him?
No. It's a good idea.
Claim it quick.
No, but just the band across there to complement this, make it like La Avenida de los, ¿verdad? Yeah. Like the pyramid in Tehuantepec.
RCAF's contributions to public art around the Sacramento community has enriched our understanding and appreciation of their legacy and societal impact. And so far, it stood the test of time.
The Metamorphosis mural, well, it was very controversial at the time, not only from the arts people, but from our own people saying, well, where are all the power fists? Where are the huelga birds? We're not used to this new kind of art. This doesn't seem like a Chicano mural. And we were saying, well, we believe this is a human mural. I remember the day that when we finished the mural, when we finished the big butterfly, that there was an actual tiger swallowtail butterfly that flew from the top of Macy's building, and it came and flew right to the center of the butterfly, the painted butterfly. It almost genuflected, it pulsed there, and then it flew away. And we all watched it, and we knew we had completed, and it was confirmed what we had done.
In 2016, the Sacramento Metropolitan Arts Commission unanimously invited RCAF members Esteban Villa, Juanicia Orozco, and Stan Padilla to work on restoring the 1977 Metamorphosis mural, as well as a new mural for the Golden One Center. The Royal Chicano Air Force's flight mural was unveiled inside the Golden One Center prior to a Sacramento Kings game in 2018.
The name Sacramento is a Spanish name. This is a community that's had a legacy of Latin and Spanish culture for longer than any of us can ever imagine. We forget it from generation to generation, but we keep coming back to it. And what these guys did is they reminded us of our roots in this community, and a number of us, myself included, took enormous pride and pleasure in trying to, in what little way we could, help them express what is fundamentally important to them and to Sacramento.
I look back at those times, the really exciting times at the height of the RCAF, very warmly, very fondly. These were all my compadres. We went through so many experiences together. We became family. So I miss those times. I've been in Nicaragua right after the revolution. I've been in times where there's something in the air that's happening you can't explain in words, and that's one of those times for me.
I feel so fortunate that what I had to offer was at the right time for the right thing at the right place. I don't think each one of us can kind of like say why we came together, and then we knew when we saw each other, yeah, there's something we got to do together, We understood it. It's a duty and a privilege to be able to serve my community and my culture. The whole RCAF experience was a magical carpet ride through the renaissance of the Chicano cultural arts movement.
Well, the Royal Chicano Air Force are a group of young men and women that had an incredible vision about what they wanted society to look like. They did what they started out to do. And I just wish that that model existed in every city. I think our whole country would be a lot different if we had a RCAF in every community.
The mission of the Royal Chicano Air Force was to change the world. In terms of education, the number of times that we've had to confront administrations of different campuses. Jobs, assisting the United Farm Workers Union in better working conditions for farm workers. Our mission was to change the world in those sort of ways. Get involved, lend a hand, lend a body.
Well, a movement in the making is trouble. Once they've made it, they are an institution to be revered and respected. Art has to express what's going on in a community every day, every month, every year of that community's life. And these guys represented an enormously powerful potential in this community. And as you tell the story of arts in Sacramento, you're going to tell, among others, the powerful story of the RCAF, and it will be a fascinating story for generations to come.
I still have a lot of hope for the group. You know, even there's a lot of positive things going on individually, a lot of good things happening, and you know that's how it all started. A lot of good stuff going on. And we'll keep doing that in our own way. People say the movement is in pieces, but the way we look at it is the pieces have movement, and that's who we are.